Okay, we are live. Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? This is Jen from the Cartomancer, and today we have the fantabulous Barbara Moore with us. So we are going to talk about all things Barbara, all things writing, whatever else comes up, and tarot, of course, because we kind of like that around here. So, we might talk about that a little bit. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. My son actually, he's 21, so he's older. He got a new puppy, so I had a puppy sit today. I haven't done that in a long time, and she howls. And I've never had a puppy that howls before, so it's been an interesting morning, Barbara.
We used to have two dogs, a golden retriever and a Bernese Mountain Dog. And in St. Paul, every Wednesday at 1 p.m., the sirens go off for the to test the warning system.
Right.
And every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, our dogs would be in the yard howling. All the dogs in the neighborhood even would howl along with the sirens. So, yeah.
So you always knew when it was 1 o'clock then, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I have a feeling she would like this. Her name is Sammy, and she is a border collie. So yeah,
a lot of energy.
I have 3 little Yorkies, so I just have the little like ankle biter dogs. I don't have big dogs that howl, so it's fun. So everybody, let me just introduce Barbara here real quick, and then we're gonna just get to talking. Who we have here? We have Jamie, we have Amber here. So you can, when questions come up, I'll just kind of, read them for us too, Barbara. So this is Barbara Moore, everyone. She's an author, a teacher, a tarot specialist. She is, pretty interesting. And she works at Llewellyn. So now what is your title exactly at Llewellyn? Besides Goddess of Llewellyn, what else do you do there?
Definitely not Goddess of Llewellyn. I'm not sure who would hold that, but not me.
Yeah.
My technical actual title is independent contractor, because I'm not technically an employee. I used to be an employee for a long time. And then at one point I got tired of sitting in a cube, so I quit.
Hi, look, you go, you. All right.
And as I'm leaving, they're like, wait, would you be interested in something different? And so technically I'm an independent contractor.
Okay.
What I do is I acquire and project manage products for our tarot and oracle line. So I look for new products, new oracle decks, new tarot decks, new tarot books. I develop existing authors, because it's one of the benefits of having a good relationship with your publisher is a lot of times your acquisitions editor can really help shape your career going forward. So, so if you get that opportunity, it's usually a good one to take advantage of.
Right. Yeah.
Help you along the way. So that's awesome. That's my title.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's like you have the title of no title. You are just you and you do the things. I love it. I love it. That's super exciting though, to just kind of be able to try and find new things and new people and just different, different aspects of tarot and everything. Do you ever, do you feel, do you feel like there's been a shift in the last couple years, especially with people that, obviously we've all been home a little bit more. And have you noticed any shift in tarot, like books or submissions or anything like that?
Oh, yes. It's always interesting. I'm trained as a historian. That's what I have my master's in. So I like to look at trends. And, as a historian, I know you can't really analyze these things until they're, 25 to 50 years in the past. However, sociologists kind of do. So I kind of do it too. So yeah, it is always interesting to see through submissions, through client work, through presentations at conferences, how things change a little bit. And you can kind of tell when like when the economy is good. The books and workshops on tarot tend to be more spiritual development, self-reflection, like that. When we hit like economic issues or things like the pandemic, you see a shift away from, the I can do anything I want and I'm going to use the cards to show me how to achieve every single goal I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
Because then reality hits. It's like, well, okay, this pandemic happened and I don't have the control over my life that I thought I had, at least not right now. So yeah, there are differences. Things are getting more honed in on like mundane real life. How can I read the cards for practical things?
Right.
So there is a shift from that. In terms of the authors, it's kind of interesting because when the pandemic hit, a lot of authors responded really well, worked hard, wrote fast, did stuff.
Right.
But then I don't know what it is, but right about now, it's not just me, but the other editors at Llewellyn kind of are having this issue. Authors are having a real hard time getting their manuscripts done for like this period, this quarter or whatever. So it feels like everyone's kind of hit this wall and can't just power through or finish. I understand that, because I'm in that same boat. But yeah, so you do see differences for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's super interesting because I didn't even think of as far as like the transitioning from the self-help stuff to the more practical things, because now we're just more into we don't have the time for all the other stuff. I feel like, there's more to worry about. So that makes a lot of sense. So, saying that you're a historian, do you have a favorite time period?
My focus was Elizabethan and the Reformation. So yeah, I mean, I don't know about the favorite, but that's what I was interested in and studied and wrote my papers on at the time. So I like that. And I also liked the Industrial Revolution. Not that it's not like I want to go back and live in those times, but I think they were super interesting. And both the Reformation and the Industrial Revolution really shaped modern society. So I find that fascinating.
Yeah, no, it is definitely. And, it's so funny too, because I was talking to my husband, we were watching Outlander. I don't know if you watched that, but we love it. And it's, it's like this woman, she time travels and goes back into like the 1800s. And he's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to live in that time? And I'm like, no, it would not. Like, as you, yeah. As me, not so much. That's that funny.
Yeah, I'm actually re-listening to the All Souls trilogy, the Deborah Harkness. I love that series. And I just finished the middle book where she lives in 16th century England for 7 months. And yeah, no, wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah, I'll pass. Like, I'm going to read this and let her do that, but I'm not going to do that. And it's so funny too, because I think, really, as a male, he didn't even think of that. Like, he didn't even think of it, like, from our perspective, like, oh, wait a minute, like, it's going to probably really suck for you guys. Like, you don't want to do that, And so, that's part of my job is to enlighten him with these things sometimes. And he's like, oh, right, never mind. Okay. But it is super interesting to see also too, like, just the trends themselves are things that kind of carried on throughout time, and I guess, tarot can be one of those things, really, and just how that's grown and changed throughout the years. So when did you start tarot? Like, what was your tarot journey like?
Yeah, my tarot journey probably started similar to many people's because it started in college at a party.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so some differences or background that for my specific story, I went to college as a non-traditional student, which means I was an older student. I didn't go right after high school. I went like 4 years later. So, I think I was glad I did that. I think that going to school a little bit older made a big difference for me. And I was in an interdisciplinary program. So I was studying, well, the history, art history, psychology, mythology, science, all philosophy, all these things together. And so I was at a party in college and someone pulled out a tarot deck. It was just a deck, no book or anything. This was in the late 90s. And I was holding the deck and looking through it. And I think because of all the background from my college reading, I felt like I was holding the sum total of all human knowledge in my hands.
I love it.
So my connection to the cards began with, oh my God, what kind of wisdom is embedded in these cards? I wasn't so much interested in predicting the future then. And my first deck, which I wouldn't even try to read with now, to tell you the truth, is the Heimdall.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I used, I think the author is Sally Nichols, who wrote Jung and the Tarot. So my first usage of the cards, I used just the major arcanas and I studied them through mythology, which, I mean, that's kind of what the Heimdall was based on. And then the Tarot and Jung book was all very psychological. And so that was my study. Oh, and gosh, I can't deal with this hair. This whole floofy thing is new for me. Sorry, guys. I'll quit fussing with that, I hope. Or
see,
not,
my problem is on here it's opposite. So I want to like get on this side, but then it's like, so I'm going like this, and I'm like, what? They're like, what is she doing right now?
I know. I know. It's very weird. Anyways, but not interesting. So let's try to get back onto something totally interesting.
I love it.
Yeah. So then, so when I started tarot, there was not hardly any internet to speak of.
Yeah.
There were a few books. And so I bought all the books and I, did all the self-study, and I had a friend and I studied with her, and I had my sister, we studied together, but really there wasn't a lot. And there wasn't, I almost feel sorry for people who are learning now, because I see, questions and posts and people talking about how, oh my God, I looked at 3 different online sites and they all say something different. And which book do I use? And what, I'm afraid to do it wrong. And there's like so much trepidation. And like back in my day, you found a box of cards on a shelf in a bookstore. Right. That was your lucky day, right? Yeah. You didn't get to know how to work them. You had to figure that out.
You just went with it. Right. It's so true.
Yeah. So the lack of fear, the lack of expectation, the lack of thinking that there was a way I'm supposed to be doing it was beautifully absent from my experience. So it was just a lot of fun and a lot of exploration. And that was my journey for a long time. One thing, okay, I'm kind of old, so I've been around since, before tarot was a thing. And I mean, back in the day, like in the late 90s, like tarot conferences, the American Tarot Association, the ATA, ran a lot of tarot conferences and had these regional tarot conferences all over the country in these small airport hotels. And
oh my gosh, that's great.
Those were so good. I mean, these were people who, before there were all the articles, before all the things that you could do with the cards,
right,
these people were doing that, like kind of setting that foundation. And it was just so old school. I think that would be a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, definitely. Just very organic.
Yeah. Yes. Organic, without a lot of polish, without a lot of commercialism. Like now when you go to conferences, which is cool because people want to know, but it's a lot about promoting yourself,
right,
and your work, which is a great way to do that. But these early conferences, there wasn't an industry like there is now. I mean, there was always tarot card publishing, but I think you know what I mean by the industry.
Right.
So it was just all explorers together.
Yeah,
and it was really kind of democratic. I mean, we had our Rachel and Mary back then even, but beyond that, everyone was just all equal and all together. So that was always super fun.
Right. That's like a great space to work in too, like you said, because right now too, we're just because we have all these sources, it's that comparison too, you know, it's such a big thing, you know, and you know, everybody now it, and then like the phrase, which I dislike this phrase so much, is the imposter syndrome. It's like, where did that even come from? Like, wait a minute, what? Like, and it is just because we're all posting and everybody's posting and asking questions and, oh, you can't buy your own deck and da 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 da. And you're just like, I would never have done this if I didn't get my own deck. Like, I never would have. And that's when I started, was, you know, in the early 90s. And I went to the library. There was 3 books that you could check out, and that's what you got. Nothing else besides that. So what was your first deck purchase after that one? The Handel, or Handel.
Handel, yeah. What was it? Oh, I have no idea. It could have been, because there weren't a ton of decks at the time either.
Right, yeah.
And online shopping, don't think I did that then. So it was what was available in the small resort town I lived in at the time.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think maybe the Old English.
Oh, okay. All right.
Which I remember I was buying every deck I could find, like the Old English. There was some Unicorn Tarot, which I don't even have anymore, and it was not so great, I don't think. Right. There was a Tarot of Love. I remember these titles, but I don't remember those decks. So,
yeah, like what they were. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah,
so probably after I started with the ATA, I probably got a Rider-Waite to work with after that. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that was the Rider-Waite was the one I got, because that's the one in this little store that I found. That's all they had was that. So that's what I went with.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, did you start like reading for others and stuff like that? Or did you just more go into like the study of it and kind of go that way with
it? Over the many, many years, I've gone on many different paths. So yes, yes, I did spend much time studying the tarot just as a holder of wisdom. But then, of course, I do have Scorpio rising, so I do like some of the mystery and to know the secrets and to know what's going on. So, you know, if you can tell the future with these cards, I want to do that.
Right.
So I did do that, and I just like studying for studying's sake. Yeah. So I remember after several years of studying on my own and reading all the books, and I joined the ATA, and they had, back then it was a correspondence program, like letters.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so bring that back.
I know.
They should.
So I had a mentor, and I had to do lessons and send them in and whatever. And then the final test was you had to use a cassette and make a recording of yourself doing a reading for someone. So that was a lot of fun. And that learning experience was so fun for me because you had to develop your own meanings for the cards. And so, you know, I had my 5 books, right? Because like you said, there's like 5 books, and I would read, like if I was doing the Ace of Pentacles, I'd read about the Ace of Pentacles and all the books, which I'd already read, right? But this is like gathering all the information and then synthesize it all, keep synthesizing it down till I got to a paragraph, bring that down to a sentence, bring that down to a key word, you know, using all, you know, so it was super fun. But I'm getting off from your question, because did I read for people? Yes, I read for people. I didn't have any one telling me not to, or be careful, you'll do it wrong, or asking, you know, these hard ethical questions or philosophical questions. Can the future be predicted? To what extent? I wasn't thinking of that stuff. I'm like,
I'm just reading cards.
So ignorance was bliss back in those days. So yes, I read for people. I read for friends. I mean, I didn't read for money because, again, it wasn't really an industry, a thing or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But I did read for money once. My second marriage, we had a medieval themed, like a Renaissance festival wedding.
Oh my gosh,
I know. It was kind of fun. But it wasn't historically accurate at all. It was more like literary movie Renaissance, you know, so it could be more fun. And I had, instead of doing, are you familiar with the dollar dance?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
instead of doing a dollar dance, I did readings for people.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
I know. I know. And I remember I usually don't remember my readings that I do
Yeah,
for people, and I don't really remember from way back then, but I
right.
do remember one moment in one reading there is it was my new father-in-law's business associate and his wife. The wife
Okay.
brings him read for my husband, and I'm reading, and I remember a bunch of cups came up, which I was surprised because he looked, very
Yeah.
swordsy, right?
Right, right.
And so I started talking about emotions, and he's like, and his wife was next to him going, so that was fun.
That's amazing. No, I love that. I love that. And I feel like when the more they react that way, the more I know I'm hitting it on the head at that point. I'm like, okay, because you're acting so strong, reacting so strongly that I must be getting somewhere right. I'm hitting something. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I love that. And I did have a dollar dance at my wedding. I have to say, we did. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was 20 something years ago now, but we did have one. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. So was there a card in the deck that was kind of like hard for you to learn, or it just wouldn't stick for you, or you just didn't like it?
Back then or now?
Now.
It's
We'll see.
now.
Yeah, now.
It's the same, really, I guess.
Yeah.
All these years. Yeah, there are a couple of cards that I struggle with because I have not yet decided on my actual philosophy for how those cards work.
Okay.
So I have issues with the Two of Swords.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I have an issue with it is because it's swords, so it's air, right?
Right.
Yet there's the moon and there's the water, which is very, water.
Right.
And I had always thought that, or always in the beginning, I thought that, well, she has the blindfold on, and so it means to block out everything and focus on intellect, just turn inside, look in your mind, use that. And then one of my dear friends and sometimes nemesis, Riccardo Minetti from Los Mirabelle, told me, oh no, the blindfold means she's not looking at everything else. She's listening to the ocean and letting focusing on that. And I'm like, right. But it's air. I don't understand. So I think that moment wounded me for the rest of my life. Right. I'm always going to struggle with two of Swords.
Right. He just complicated it for you right there.
Whatever. Good. Fine. I don't care. Yeah. Yeah. So that, and also Wheel of Fortune. I'm like, is it good luck? Is it bad luck? Yeah. Is it, I don't do reversals. So how do I get the bad luck? I don't know. That one is just, and also I notice in designing decks, the Wheel of Fortune is often the least satisfying visually.
Right.
I don't know why.
No, I think that makes sense. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like a lot going on. But then it's like, how does it all really go to what you're asking or the situation? So I feel like there's just a lot going on in it too,
Right. Because then, and I also think like, okay, so if we don't do good luck, bad luck, if we do, it's change, because it is obviously change. So when I think of a Wheel of Fortune, I think of like the hand of fate spinning it, and where it stops, nobody knows.
Right.
But then again, we modern readers often say, well, it's the wheel of life. Well, if it's the wheel of life, then what comes next in an organic, orderly fashion.
Right.
And we have the tarot card or the Tower card to be the unexpected thing. So the wheel can only be the next organic thing that's going to happen. But then why do you need a card for that? Because the next organic thing that's going to happen, do you know what I mean?
Right. Like then what is that next thing? If it, like you said, and the progression of it all, because then you have like the Fool's Journey, and that's a progression as well. And then so where does that Wheel of Fortune, like, is it the one thing that you weren't sure about that's going to happen? Or is it something that you didn't know needed to happen that's going to happen? There are so many questions here, this Barbara.
You asked. those are troublesome for me.
Contemplating it. I'm like, wait a minute. Now I got to really think about this.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it is. No, it is. It is good. And it's all like, I think for even newer readers, these are good things to bring up for them to really think about what it means to them as well.
Perhaps. I don't want to give them trouble in their minds, though.
Sometimes though, the little trouble in your mind kind of triggers really how you feel about it, or it helps you become more sure of it because maybe they don't agree with us. So maybe they're like, you know what? No, this is what it means. This is what it means to me. And that's it. So let's go with that way. We're going to go with that.
Yes.
Yes, we're going with that. Yeah. So who else in this deck gets you? Or are those the two big ones?
Oh, those are the two big ones. Let me think. Oh, well, okay. In deck creation, I struggle a bit with the 2 and 3 of Wands.
Okay.
They're so very similar.
Yes, they are. Yes.
And the difference between them for me is subtle. So that's hard. How about you? What are some hard ones for you?
What are hard ones for me?
Yeah.
I think, I definitely have to agree with Wheel of Fortune one, because that's even as I've been trying, when I pull it in a reading, depending on what it is, like I really do have to take a minute and think about how that, wheel of fate, so to speak, is going to really apply to the situation. So that one does always get me. And I love the Hierophant. And it's like, I know what it means, but I think sometimes in readings, it can be confusing how that one applies. Like, how does that one really, how is that benefiting or not benefiting the reading? Like for me, if I pull it by itself, it's easier. But when I have it with other cards, I think that one gives me pause too. So I think those are probably my two.
That's interesting that the Hierophant is one of your problem cards. I think a lot of modern tarot readers struggle with the Emperor and the Hierophant. Yeah. And those happen to be two. Well, I won't say they're two of my favorite cards, but they are two cards that I feel one of my jobs in this life is to champion those two cards. Right. Because I think modern readers come to them with a lot of baggage that they can't get past. Therefore, they can't see the value and they tend to denigrate the gifts of those two cards and overcomplicate them too. So how about for the Hierophant, one of the ways that I try to bring it down to its most base level, stripping it of all charged energy, vocabulary, is walking your talk. Because the Hierophant is a bridge. So he's always the bridge between the divine and the mundane. Right. And so a person has their ideals, their values, and then the Hierophant reminds you, it's not in my mind about empty rituals or dogma or anything. It's like, what do you believe and value? And are you living that? Right. So if it comes up in a reading,
I like that.
For me, it's like the decision is what is most in line with your values.
Right. And like, are you owning it? Are you owning your values? Yes. No, I love that. That's definitely a better way. And like you said too, it's just like simplifying it, because we as just humans like to complicate everything. And I think that's also an awesome point for new readers too, is to keep it simple, right? Just keep it simple as you're learning and as you're going along. So how did you start working for Llewellyn? Like, how did you start writing? Why don't we start with that one first? How do you start writing?
Well, I started writing as a child. I like in third grade, I was the editor of our elementary school newspaper, and so I've been writing my whole life. But you mean professionally? Yeah. And
but I did want to know that too.
Yep. Little journalist in second grade or third grade, whatever. So I started at Llewellyn. I was married at the time to somebody different than I am now. And we moved here for their job moved from Michigan to Minnesota.
Okay.
for their job. And so I was looking for a job, and I was always interested in writing. I mean, I came from an academic background, but I didn't have the enough degrees to work at the University of Minnesota. Okay. So I was just looking in publishing, and and back then, remember, no internet. I was looking for jobs in the newspaper. Do you remember that?
Yes,
oh my God. Yeah. So this one Saturday, my spouse and I went to a mall, and I don't know if they still have them, but they were called museum stores. Where they had stuff that you might find in a museum gift shop, fancy stuff, usually overpriced. Yeah. And I had bought, and I was very sad because I wasn't able to find a job. So we bought because when you're sad, you buy something, right? So we bought me a tarot. Yes, we bought me a tarot deck called The Legend, the Arthurian Tarot. And I was, it was on Sunday, after I went and got the Sunday paper to look in the want ads. I had the deck on the table. I was looking, and I found an ad for a production assistant at a company called Llewellyn. And I'm like, Llewellyn, what a weird name that is. But it sounds familiar. Right. And I look at the deck next to me that I just bought the day before. Right. And it was published by Llewellyn. Yep. So I'm like, okay, that's a sign. So I applied and got in. It was an entry-level job. It was just production assistant. It wasn't anything. But over time, I worked my way into the acquisitions department. And then I was really lucky. I got to help with the revamping of Llewellyn's acquisitions department, because before we just had like a committee that reviewed everything, but no specialists for content and author development. And, so that has really changed Llewellyn's focus and lines when we shifted to that. So luckily I got to become the tarot acquisitions editor. So that's how I started working for Llewellyn, and how I got into the position that I would ultimately hold. And then how I got started writing for Llewellyn. Well, the first thing is very kind of humiliating, but I'll share it with you guys anyways. So they wanted sometimes they would have very small books that they would use as marketing tools at trade conferences and things. So they asked me to write a little book called What Tarot Can Do for You. And it's just a tiny book, and it just talked about, remember when I said ATAs, where people started doing all the things people kind of take for granted now, different ways to use the tarot. So the book had a bunch of that kind of stuff in it. And of course it never even sold its print run, because it was made to be a marketing piece. So, kind of like in terms of sales and publishing numbers, my forays was a failure. Anyways, it felt like a failure. Right. And, but then the big kind of click happened. Back in the day before internet, artists used to send hard copy portfolios to publishers to, bid for cover design jobs. Oh, wow. Okay. And so our art department had a big box of cold submissions from artists, beautiful portfolios. Oh, wow. And one day, the art department assistant came over to me, and she's like, I've got this portfolio, I'm looking through it, and it's not tarot, but something about the images feels like they could be tarot or go in that direction. Right. Do you want to look at this? So I looked at it and ended up calling the person to see if they wanted to maybe learn tarot and make a deck. And he said yes, and that person was Ciro Marchetti.
Oh my gosh, really? Oh wow.
Yep. So I helped. I didn't technically design the deck. At that time, we weren't doing it like that. Right. I just told him to use a Rider-Waite and kind of use that for his inspiration, and then I kind of could like fact check him. Like I didn't tell him what to do or anything, but I kind of helped fact check him. Then I ended up writing the book for that. And that was like my first actual good, decent writing that was published. And then it just kind of grew from look at it, still being hair. Ah,
attention.
And it's the whole, like, look at, now it's all going the wrong way. Oh,
It's totally
so yeah, so I wrote that book, and then what started happening is people were sending in decks, just the art, like artists who were not really right, because people who write generally are not visual artists, and people who make visual art generally are not writers.
Right.
That's not always true, but usually.
Right.
So people would send in these completed decks, but they either didn't know how to read Tarot or they didn't know how to write. So because I knew what the company needed, because they knew I was reliable, I could turn it around fast, I got a lot of those companion book jobs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but then the real first deck that was actually like mine, that I created the descriptions and guided the artists and worked hand in glove with them, was the Steampunk Tarot. And that to this day, that remains my favorite project, both to have worked on and I'm still the most proud of it. Yeah.
It's actually one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites. I always have this one around. So how was it for you writing the steampunk book?
Glorious, easy, beautiful, lovely. It was so good. Well, I mean, the way it all happened, oh, I see the sun is coming in, whatever. It's fine. Nobody cares.
No, but it's illuminating you now. See,
yes,
I'm glowing. I told you what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you don't have your sparkles on today, because there's no way I could compete with that.
No, I don't think it's fair. I try not to put them on because I'm like, I know not everyone else, and really, it only works on Instagram too. So, it's Instagram cheap, so I can't use that.
So how steampunk came to be, and probably one of the reasons it was so glorious to write, was so steampunk it's like rooted, I mean, it's a lot larger now than it was, but it was kind of rooted in the Victorian era. It was kind of like if the future were back then. Well, you guys know what steampunk is. Anyways, I loved everything about, because I told you, like the Industrial Revolution, I like the Victorian era, and I like the literature, and I like the this and the that. And then one day I bought a necklace off of Etsy, and I turned to one of my colleagues and I said, I bought this necklace, and I found out this look that I like has a name. I'm like, it's called steampunk. And he's rolling his eyes. He's like, yes, it's steampunk. And I'm like, I didn't know. I'm like, did you know? Blah, blah, blah. I'm talking and talking. And he's like, why don't you just make a deck? That would be an awesome idea. Like, quit talking to me, go make a deck. And I thought, okay, well, steampunk is such a it's such a niche, and tarot is a niche. And if you get too nichey, you don't have an audience.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep my eye on steampunk as a trend, and then, get on it when the time is right.
Right. The historian popped out.
Exactly. But then an amazing thing happened is the steampunk community exploded overnight, it felt. And I'm like, holy crap, I better get on this. And so the first step in making a tarot deck, at least how Llewellyn works, is you write your card descriptions. And so I remember, so ergonomically not correct, I sat in an armchair with a notepad, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and these images, these ideas just poured forth. It was so great. And then when I wrote the book, well, and then working with Allie, my artist, he was fantastic.
Yes.
Obviously. So that was super fun. And then when it came time to write the book, because I'd written a lot of companion books, and you usually have to write to a really tight spec, like every card length has to be the same and stuff like that. Yeah. So in this book, I decided I wasn't going to do that. I was just going to write whatever for each card. And I wrote like completely in my own voice.
Oh,
Whereas
wow.
the other ones, well, my own
Yeah.
Victorian steampunk voice, but all the other ones,
Right.
I'm really just trying to channel the voice of the deck. So this one feels like it
Right.
has more
So
of
it's
me in
really,
it.
really you. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I love it. I'm just showing some of the images there. And I love the card backs on these too. I'm a big steampunk fan as well. So it definitely resonated with me for sure. Now, was there a book, a deck book or whatever that was a little bit harder for you to connect with and write? Or did they all, after you kind of got into it and looked at the images, kind of flowed for you?
Yeah, I think I'm lucky, and it might be one of my superpowers, is that I am able to look at a deck and find its voice
Right.
and find a way to say it. It's
Right.
almost like being a mimic, which I can't do. Like I can't do accents, I can't impersonate people like with
Right.
my voice. But with writing, I think
Yeah,
I
I think
tell
so.
myself I can.
I think so. I think so. I think
Yes.
that's definitely your superpower for sure.
Although I remember remember one thing that was super hard. The low scare, because I do for low scare Bayo as well, and
Yeah.
they asked me to write the book to go with the Tarot of the Eternal Night, which is a vampire deck.
Oh, yes.
And when I sent in the manuscript, Ricardo, my dear friend Ricardo, again said, "Well, it's clear you are not a goth girl." Thanks.
So Ricardo's just keeping it real throughout everything.
He's the one, he keeps me honest. Totally.
Yeah, I love it.
But interestingly, that deck got such a weirdly huge following. I think it was in Puerto Rico.
Really?
And yes, and people would contact me from there, and then this group asked me to come speak to their group on video because I couldn't go there.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And I was so nervous because I'm like, what are they going to ask me? I don't know.
I would too.
They were serious vampire people. Oh my God. And, so the camera comes on and I see these people in this room. It's kind of dark. It kind of looks like a bookstore. And, they're all kind of dressed the way we used, not me, but people used to dress kind of gothy vampire-y, and like they're serious. And I felt like such a imposter or poser, but they were so sweet to me and just asked me questions and loved everything weird and beautiful. So
yes. That's probably one of those things, like after you were done, you were just like, okay, what just happened? Was that real? Right?
Yes.
That is such an awesome experience though too. And like kudos to you for doing it, because some people might have been like, forget it, I'm not doing that. That's a little too out for me. But that's awesome that you went and did it, and you actually, had that experience. That's so much fun. I love that.
When I did the book for the Tarot of the Hidden Realms,
yes,
I was deep into my shamanic studies at the time. And so when I started working on the book for that one, because they're mostly portraits, so they're these kind of portals to other worlds all tarot cards are that, but these were like other worlds, right?
I love this deck.
So I started doing a shamanic journey to each character.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was intense. And after a while, my wife said, "Hey, honey, please stop doing that. I'm kind of worried about you. You're getting a little weird." And
the wife is telling you then, okay.
Yeah, she's like, "You're spending too much time in places that aren't here,
right,
with people who aren't us. It's not good for you." So some of them, and I guess this is where my talent as kind of a mimic comes in, or my ability to kind of touch into the heartbeat of the card is, I don't know if people can tell the difference between the ones that I journeyed to write and the ones I just wrote. So that might be an interesting activity. Like,
yes,
did she journey?
Now I'm gonna look. Now you're giving me all sorts of homework, because this is, and these are like meaty guidebooks too. Like there is a lot, and I take them, like I have the Wizard's Tarot here, but the book's not in here because I have it like next to my bed because I that's what I do with the guidebooks. I love reading them. And, you know, so that's where that one is. I kind of rotate them, but see, now I'm going to go through. I'm going to have to ask you which ones now. I'm going to go through and see if I can guess. That's fun. It's like a game. I love it. You know, the other one too, and I have more, and these are just the ones I grabbed too, is the Shadowscapes as well. And how is that one writing?
Well, I mean, that one was super easy because I only did the front matter.
Oh, okay.
Right. Stephanie is not a tarot reader, so she could not write the beginning part, which teaches you how to do a tarot reading.
Oh, I see. Right.
And she wrote her own card meanings.
Got it.
So yes,
this is a beautiful deck.
Yeah, so that one was super easy.
Yeah,
I only had to do a teeny bit of work.
Yeah, I love that. You were probably done like 10 minutes. You're like, okay, I'm ready to go. I love that. That's so amazing. So what, you know, are you working on, or could you share, are you working on any projects at the moment that you can share with us, or they're still in the down low?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I was in the down low for a long time, and it was really not a good down low.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I did not weather the first year of the pandemic well. So
right. I think that's a lot of people. A lot of us had a hard time.
But yes, I am. In fact, I think I finished up Wizards during that time. So that was hard. Yeah. And I do the tarot calendar, which is kind of a challenging project, actually, even though it's not a ton of content, but it is challenging to do. Anyways, so I finished working. It's going to come out this fall, and it's called the Trick or Treat Tarot.
Oh, it's a Halloween.
Yeah, it's a Halloween one, and it's kind of fun because it's. You'd think that if Llewellyn were doing a Halloween tarot, it'd be a witchy one, but then they would probably call it the Samhain tarot or something, right? Right. So and in fact, this was they asked me to do. Sometimes I come up with ideas, and sometimes my publisher asks me to do something. And in this case, the publisher asked me to do a Halloween tarot, and they were looking for something that was kind of nostalgic, kind of, you know, like for those of us who were kids in the 70s and 80s and knew how awesome Halloween was.
Yeah.
I don't think Halloween is like that now.
No, I feel like a lot of extra rules. And, you know, get like the plastic costumes that have that smell to them. Yeah. Because that's like trademark, like Halloween. You know, it's Halloween when you smell the plastic of the costume.
Yes. Yeah, so that was very fun to work on because it was because it's just all people in Halloween costumes and what Halloween costumes work for the cards and how it was just totally fun. It's a delightful deck. I mean, of course it can be used like any tarot deck. It was delightful, and I'm looking forward to that coming out and sharing that with the world a little bit more. I think it's up for pre-order now, but I'll start talking about it in public later, though. It's a little early to talk about Halloween.
Right. Well, you know, with us, we always love Halloween, so it's okay. We talk about it all the time.
That's true. A lot of people celebrate it all year round.
Yeah.
Oh, I did get an interesting project offered to me this past fall. Diablo. It's a computer game, I think.
Yes, I know it is. Yeah.
You know Diablo? Okay.
I do.
Okay. So the company that that produces that game contacted me. And I assume I had to sign a non-disclosure thing, but it's on Amazon for pre-order, so I'm assuming I can talk about it now.
And I would think so at that point, right?
I would think so. You're right. So I think it's called the Sanctuary Tarot, and it's set in the Diablo world. Now, I didn't have anything to do with the card design. Like I didn't even get to see the cards.
Oh, okay.
I just had to write a guidebook. Okay. And they gave me a lot of material, but then they also told me that I couldn't pull in too much story lore or the book would have to be vetted with their lore team, which would get really complex. I mean, I don't know. It just sounded really crazy. But anyways, so the biggest challenge with that, besides the very tight word count, was they wanted me to write generic Rider-Waite based interpretations that are useful for a modern user in a kind of medieval language.
Oh, all right. Okay.
So that was fun. I mean, it's not really heavy in the medieval language, but they wanted the flavor. So, you know, the first, and I had to do, and I only had like 2 weeks for each draft. They wanted it so fast.
Yeah.
And I was moving at the time, so big fun. But it felt like a good challenge, like something scary. It's good to do something scary once in a while, something outside of the ordinary. Introducing tarot to possibly a new audience. How cool is that? So yeah, that was a really fun whirlwind and unexpected project. So that, and so those so those are two fun things. Then I have actually one deck in process that I'm thinking will end up being like on the level of steampunk in terms of my personal love and how much of me is in it. Unfortunately, it's like two and a half years out from, you know, release, and it's way too early to talk about the details of it now. But it's going to be a quirky, whimsical deck that in visually, but it's going to be exploring some pretty deep areas, like mostly like the super interested lately in the roles of fate, destiny, chance, luck, and free will. In how life works. I'm always looking to figure out a model that shows exactly how life works. Have not found it yet, though.
Keep me posted on that. For sure. Wow, that's super interesting, though. I love that. Well, and it's always good to know little tidbits, like things for us to look forward to, you know. I love that. And like I said, I love steampunk, so I am all about it. I'm totally all about it. So, excuse me. We are actually right to almost to an hour now, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Didn't that go like so fast?
And it did.
You know, with the I think at like an hour it cuts off, so I don't want that to happen to us.
Okay.
So. But could you just tell everybody where to find you if they'd like to follow you?
Oh, I am not on any socials.
You have your website.
I do have my website. My website is tarotshaman.com. And you guys can email me at barbaramore07@comcast.net. And so old fashioned. If you want to write me a letter, I'll give you my address.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm going to write you a letter. I always love that. And like, even like with Christmas cards and stuff, like, I'm like, does anyone want a Christmas card anymore? Because I'll send it to you. I'm like, I just want to like mail something. I miss mailing stuff out. I love writing letters. And do you have an email list? Like, do you send out newsletters or do you anything like that? You have a blog, right? On Llewellyn.com, right?
I do blog for Llewellyn. That's mostly showing upcoming or new release books. So it's mostly focusing on their product. I do have my website. I have a blog on my website. Haven't done anything on it in a while. And I do have a newsletter sign up. So check those things out, because especially with the trick or treat coming out and me starting to get more active again in the world, because I'm recovering from the trauma of COVID. I mean, I didn't have it. I mean, just the pandemic, I should say.
Just the general hoopla.
The general So hopefully I'll have more that is worth sharing with you guys. I haven't sent anything out because I haven't had anything worth sharing because wah.
You know what? And I think I feel like even for myself, like sending out newsletters, like I just kind of started up again and got it going, because I do feel like we were all in this lull, like just there, you know. So, you know, getting on your email list is perfect for people. They want to keep, you know, on the trick or treat deck for the steampunk one coming out. Like, that's the way to be in the know. So that's what they need to do, and get them on there.
That's
so
right.
yes, well, thank you so very much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. It was so wonderful to talk with you. You know, and anybody, I know Amber put the links in there for the pre-orders that popped up for us, because I think Diablo did pop up, and I think the Trick or Treat might have popped up as well. So she put all the links on there if you are all interested in that. So that's what we have for you. And thank you everybody for joining us. It was great to have you all and have you coming on. If you do come on the replay, you can also leave a comment. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can leave that in the comments on the replay. All right, Barbara, it was wonderful, wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much. And we'll have to have you on again.
Thank you. Bye, everyone in the chat room. I saw your comments. I love you guys too. See you again soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.